I hope you're all ready. I hope you're really ready to wake up. Okay, so this is about a project called HAX. It's just short for Headless Authoring Experience. I'm going to yell a lot because Connerton just walked in the room, and now that's on recording.
You can start now.
To my right, Tom Var. Also to my right, Greg Shanefield. Say hi.
Hi.
Look, Greg has coffee in his hand.
I have coffee.
He has coffee. Tom doesn't drink coffee. However, I drink twice coffee, 4 coffee, 6 coffee, all the coffees, okay? So we're going to get this thing going right now. Let's do this. Everything is not awesome. This is going to be the inverse of the talk that I gave earlier this year, because we have some harsh realities to accept based on the fact that this event doesn't even have the word Drupal in it anymore. Okay, so what is a headless authoring experience? Well, to understand a headless authoring experience, first, you need to know what the hell an authoring experience is. And it's this, all right? We're going back in time with Space Jam. Does everyone remember this website? This is the dawn of the internet. And ever since the dawn of the internet, with all these planets, we've been trying to figure out how to author that. Everyone wants to put that, the glittery stars in the background. That's why GeoCities existed. And so really what it means is that your contributors to your sites are people too, right? We talk about developers and developer experience. We talk about authoring and what we do for site builders. And we talk about the product we make for someone and they enter the content. All these are different people. And your contributors you love, right? Everyone here loves their contributors, the ones that file those issues about needing 4 lines of CSS to be moved to change the line height like I just got. No, but you do, right? You want the client to not talk to you, yet you give them this, and you expect them not to talk to you? Or, well, slightly better, short code hell. Okay, so we can get into short code hell instead of WYSIWYG hell. Or if we do it in Drupal with CK editor, we can do the same thing. As everyone in class knows what this is, right? This is, what editor is this? Anarchy, that's what this editor is, okay, people? And what we're trying to do is prevent anarchy. And so we went from that anarchy to like, well, but we'll just give them some little code blocks and drop it in, it'll all be fine. Look, and we've controlled the anarchy and they can do things, but it's still anarchy, okay? And if you've used WordPress, which is terrible, then you can see Divi with 1,000 different ways to divvy up the page. Has everyone done this? This is another form of anarchy. Anyone done paragraphs? Let's make fun of ourselves first, shall we? Well, actually, a second. But so paragraphs is also anarchy. I'm not knocking anyone who's built these things. They're super impressive tools, but all of this is to attempt to get the page to come out from our amazing data model. Okay? That's why we're all going decoupled, and this event doesn't even mention Drupal anymore. So, panels, another project, awesome, but anarchy. This will save everything, though. Everything is great, people, because now we have the layout module in core, even though this entire event is talking about how to decouple and get away from Drupalisms. So, this was said by a marketing manager boss person, probably one of yours. With enough training, we'll gain slightly less anarchy for our clients. No one said that, because this is still anarchy. It's just new anarchy, and it's proudly not off the island. It's anarchy we brought upon ourselves, gang. So, in a less being a jerk sense, we're all toying with authoring experience, right? We're trying to create the ultimate authoring experience to give to someone to sell so that they don't talk to us on the phone anymore. And we're not that unique in this problem. And how do I know? Well, it's because the sky is falling. The C-level manager boss person knows that the sky is falling. Why do I know the sky is falling from C-level manager boss person? This is flatline. This is our community. It is stagnant. Get over it. Accept it. Let's figure out what to do next. Like, take the word Drupal out of the name of this event. I'm just going to keep doing it. What's the other reason to panic? Oh my God. Has anyone heard of Gutenberg? I've read all about how we should just adopt it into Drupal, and it definitely won't be a failure like it is in WordPress. So what we can do is we can read a blog post about how people are getting pumped about this. And again, not knocking people. This is very impressive work. I have a fundamental problem with it, and it's getting a lot of hype recently. Why do I have a fundamental problem with it? Well, it's this. This is what you're storing. You're not storing HTML, but yet you're having content contributors work with something that they're like, oh, this is a WYSIWYG. You're storing this JSON blob that has WPs and WordPress words in it, which means you will never decouple completely. And we will have the same conference about partially decoupling decoupled. Okay, so this is anarchy, but it's new, and it's got lock-in free of charge. So you will never get away from this approach without just burning your site down and getting rid of it entirely, which is really causing concern in the WordPress community. So this was by my design, a guy who used to be a designer on our projects. He said, why does Drupal care about my design? I don't know Drupal, and I'm not able to contribute as a result of that. How many people try to segregate their front-end team from the back-end system team and keep them as far away from each other as possible because you don't need to pass TPL files back and forth? All right, so what I'm proposing then is our CMSs have to learn about our designs. It can't be the other way around. And this is where all these problems stem from. So your design will never learn your CMS. And your designers are still going to build things that are perfect, are supposed to be pixel perfect, and then you're going to graft it into the thing. Now Greg, with slightly less coffee, is going to tell us how we would do that. How would we do that, Greg?
Where is my stuff? Sorry.
It's decoupled from this presentation. It's...
Just want to make sure.
Boom.
All right, so how are we going to get through this? Web components. Can everybody see that? Yeah. Cool. There we go. All right, sweet. So, where we're going with any frameworks, right? Web components don't need a framework. They may need a library. That's not a framework. So, these are web specs in the browser. There's 4 APIs that go into the web components. So the first one is creating custom components, which is very simple. 2 lines of JavaScript creates a custom tag. Of course, you can't read that. So 2 lines of JavaScript gives you a custom tag that you can put on your page and do whatever you want with it. So date picker is 20 divs. You don't have to type that into your code. You can just write one tag and it puts it all in there. And this is done through one thing, HTML imports. So HTML imports allow you to grab another document and pull it into your site and use it as you need throughout the thing. Then you now have Shadow Dom, which is the ability to attach a node or attach another DOM to an element. So this is from Mozilla. So if you look at the document tree on the first left, you have document and then you have shadow host, and that's where it's actually mounting to. So that could be a paragraph tag, that could be whatever you put in there. Then from there, your shadow root forks down into your shadow tree. So you have an entire encapsulated product right there that you can reuse over and over again in different ways. It doesn't have to be a web app. It could be a desktop app. It could be a mobile app. As long as it supports JavaScript, because it compiles down to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript every single time, then you have, when it renders on the outside, what you actually see is on the far right, and you have your document, your nodes coming down, and you have your shadow host, and then the tree is actually inside of that. So if you look at a component,
it's in VS Code now.
Oh, thank you.
It's a blue icon. Oh, there you go.
Got it. All right. So we're looking at an actual web component. This one's built Polymer. Web components is not necessarily equal Polymer. A lot of people use Polymer, but there are other frameworks, or sorry, libraries that can do it. So there's Stencil, there's Skate. These are the 2 big ones. Vue now compiles down.
Angular can now compile down via CLI.
The React can't yet.
React breaks before.
React can, yes. So this is a standard video player with some modifications. So start off with all of your links at the top. It grabs Polymer, some base styles, and then some other media groups that you need to get in things, and these are all accessible. That's the whole point of this video player, because most video players aren't accessible out of the box. Actually, none of them are accessible out of the box, as far as I know. So we go down. So this is now our starting of our actual component. So DOM module, and then we have these template files. There's template tags, which is a new-ish tag in HTML spec. What this allows you to do is reuse chunks of data in your HTML over and over again. And where's that slot tag? And create things like slots where you can just pump things into it after the fact. So this whole entire thing generates, is this open somewhere? Is this open somewhere? No.
It's in the editor, yeah, but you can search webcomponents.org if you want. And we'll test the editor for you.
Yeah. Video.
The template tag allows you to build that root of your DOM, and it doesn't actually interpret and stamp it, so that you can keep stamping it. But also, it has to be specifically told attach to the DOM, so you can repurpose it. And the slot allows you to put other tags into that and basically reparent the items that come into it and unpack them wherever it says slot. Let's see if video player works. So this is documentation for video player.
Yes. There we go. So if we open up one of these, oh, thank you. Hate YouTube. So we dig down. Here's our actual, well, sorry, this is actually built web components too, so there's a ton of them. There we go. Come on. Video. How deep is it?
Feel your pain.
That's the iframe.
I'm good.
It's an iframe inside of it.
Yeah. So like the Mac, so forever, right? If you want to do some like quick and dirty style encapsulation, you'd throw stuff in an iframe and then embed it in the page. Think of the Shadow DOM as being able to have that same type of encapsulation just in any element you want, without it being a super hacky iframe like that.
Yes, like what this is. Here we go. I finally got to the video player. 20 nodes later. So here's our video player tag. It is one tag that includes all the information it needs to trickle down into the Shadow DOM. If you expand it, now you actually have your template here. And you keep digging down deeper, and that's where you get all of your...
Well, that's a specialized.
Oh, that's the fragment, sorry.
Yeah.
But yes, you dig down deeper and deeper, and you can go... No, you can nest Shadow DOMs continuously down if you really need to. So the other thing that there exists is the Shady Dom. So the Shady Dom is the Shadow DOM, but you can get into it and actually access styles for it and use props and everything else inside of it without having to just be totally encapsulated. So if you need to edit something slightly for a certain one, it doesn't make sense to make a variation of a component. Just use the Shady DOM and get down to the CSS you actually need. So compatibility-wise, pretty good everywhere. There are polyfills for everything that doesn't work natively. Of course, HTML imports is the one that is least supported, but there's polyfills for that one.
Yeah, I polyfill this spec to get the HTML imports across. However, Polymer, which I build my stuff on, has switched to ES modules, so then you get much more React-looking type of workflows, and be able to use Webpack and stuff like that.
So, and Tom?
Tom, what have we built with this?
We built something amazing.
Well, you should show the amazing thing that
We
you built.
should show.
That Tom built by himself.
He's
Not
unemployed,
by
by the way, so he's looking for a job.
I'm afraid the recording's not going to pick it up.
Oh,
Tom's looking for a job. It's really important to get off the recording. Why don't you open up what we were doing this time?
Oh, okay. So, well, I'll start off by, hi, my name's Tom. I just graduated from Penn State.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, but I met
The thing, Tom.
I met Brian because I interned with him, and what I was doing during my internship was working on this HAX desktop application. So, in this desktop application, oh, look, Tom Cruise, Top Gun, amazing movie. But it's, what's he saying? It's classified. Shh, the SH.
speak up, speak up, like.
Oh,
Speaking to Mike quietly.
the SH. Let's look. You know what they say, the best secrets are the ones that are out in public, so let's kind of go, oh, Brian, I gave
Wait,
you the wrong...
again with the resume.
I know, I gave you my... hold on.
I told you to put this presentation together.
Hold on, let me just...
This is ridiculous.
Move this down a little bit. Oh, gosh.
Alright.
My bad. Let me just edit this real quick. Okay.
Yeah, I would fire you, but you were already out of the university.
Yeah. I wasn't...
You were supposed to fill, this is the thing you were supposed to do. You're supposed to fill in the slide.
If you
column.
paid me... Alright. Cool. We have everything. Oh, okay, but this is Elms. Hold on, let me... Not what is HAX. Who is Elms? LN.
Never heard of that.
Oh no. Alright. cool.
endearing yourself slightly to me.
All right. But, like, what am I doing and how is this possible? Has anyone heard of Electron? Ooh, a couple hands. I did not hear about Electron until I started interning with Brian. I thought he was actually talking about real electrons. But Electron is a framework that allows you to create native apps using just JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. Raise your hand if you know those languages. Right? It should be almost like everyone in the room, anyone who's listening to the recording, like you are all familiar with this language, right? It's like me asking you to, oh, hey, can you have a conversation in another language real quick with a client? I can do like a quick 30-minute podcast about how to speak French, but you're not going to be able to do it. It's like your boss asking you how to make an application in something you don't know. But Electron allows you to make these native applications using leveraging the knowledge you already have. So does Electron.js care about your OS when you're running an app? Totes my goats, dude. Nah, or I don't care. Get with it. Disgruntled emoji.
You and the emojis.
All right, let's get with it. Oh, it's the wrong answer. All right. Anyone else want to try? Which one do you think it is? Yes or no?
Probably toads.
It's nah. Nah, it doesn't care. Which is cool because you can make an application for I code on a PC. Brian makes fun of me because of it. But
Makes fun of you because
I'm sorry. It's not my fault. But I code on a PC. I coded what my contribution to the HAX desktop on my PC. This HAX desktop is also running on Brian's Mac, and it can also run on my Linux dual boot too. That's like the amazing part is you don't have to worry about being very particular about Mac OS, particular about the Windows OS or Linux OS. It's using JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. Thanks for the participation, guys. Yeah, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, the languages we know to leverage a native application like this. And it uses a thing called Electron. Oh, man, forgot the video. Hold on, let me delete this placeholder. Find...
you should really prepare ahead of time.
You should really pay your...
This is horrible. Like, how is he ever going to get this video from YouTube and throw it in there?
You should really pay your interns, Brian.
Well, it should be, yeah.
Oh, okay. Do I want a QR code? Nah. Oh, it's responsive. It's responsive. Whoa. Whoa. How about that? All right, that's a little too big, though. Oh, wow. Magic. It's not magic. It's magic to me.
And you're contributing. That too.
But, I mean, you can look up, if you don't know what Electron is, just Google it, and it's really groundbreaking. And for people who are like looking at their computers, not paying attention, I see you guys, or on your phones, it's okay, because guess what? You're probably on Slack or VS Code, and guess what's made, guess what Slack and VS Code was made with? Electron. Yeah, whoever said that in the back, Electron, that's correct. I mean, if you go to the Electron website, I just grabbed this picture from their website. These are all the apps that they make. I game with my friends, so Discord is close to my heart. WordPress is also made with Electron. But, I mean, Slack, Atom, VS Code. What is it made with?
How do we make this?
Oh, good thing you asked. A common misconception people have with Electron is that Electron produces web pages for you. It's not technically true because Electron is actually based off of Chromium. And Chromium is what Chrome is made from. So you're essentially making, giving your app the ability to render the HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But it's not technically a browser. Brian, your scroll's weird on your Mac. I'm not used to this. Yeah. Get a PC, dude.
It's the right way.
It's the right way, someone said? All right, so what's the point? Why is some intern talking to us? Well, let's ask Lisa Kudrow. Newsflash. With Electron, you don't need to be an app developer, right? Coding Cat. I wish my parents thought I did this. They think I'm a glorified router resetter. Family holidays, Wi-Fi is not working. Tom, I'm like, I could do it, that's not what my degree is for. But in a serious note, because of Electron, you don't even need to be, or because of HAX, sorry. Because of HAX, you don't even need to be a developer to author your own content, which is mind-blowing. How do you feel about like making something that you're not really sure about, you're learning about something? It sucks. Like not knowing, always having to ask, waiting for someone. With HAX, you can empower yourself, your customers, your peers to author their own content on the web, either a desktop or...
Yeah, but this is a desktop.
Yeah.
It's a desktop.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Why do you care? Why do you care?
Why would my customers care about desktop?
Why? What? Oh,
Why
right.
do we build a desktop app?
Why? All right. Well, let's check this self-check real quick. Okay. What do you see when you inspect the projects tab? Let's inspect it. Oh, developer tools. Oh, look, it's what you know. This is language you understand. But why does it matter for a desktop app? What if the internet just goes poof, right? This is from Infinity War. I'm a comic book fan if you didn't get the reference. But on a serious note, what if you're trying to author your own content and you don't have access to the internet? At Penn State, sometimes professors travel a lot and they don't have access to the Wi-Fi or a hotspot. So what are they supposed to do? Just wait on a plane ride or a train ride and just not be able to work? This desktop application allows you to be mobile with your authoring, right? Can I has authoring experience, please? Hell yeah, you can. With this desktop app, by leveraging HAX and web components and a lot more. So you don't, another placeholder, Brian. Hold on. Let's add a local file real quick.
You didn't tell me you were going to search my desktop
Where-
for a file. This joke is getting interesting here.
Brian, where is
Well,
it?
I upload a file that I find later.
Okay. But I was going to upload a circus GIF because why do you need to go through leaps and bounds as if it was a circus to author your own content on a desktop? It doesn't make sense. We have the technology to let you do this offline, to let you create and empower yourselves using, like your phone is more powerful than the computers they use to send someone to the moon, right? Your computers, your laptops are like hundreds of times more powerful. So why can't we leverage this power into something like this, an authoring system? And then I'm going to give it to Brian for you to explain a little more.
Explain what that was. Go to the moon. Here, you hold this so you can troll me.
Okay.
That was planned, controlled trolling. So,
Yes.
we built a desktop app. I kept trying to get Tom to explain why, because like why again it decoupled. Why would you care about the web components thing and the desktop thing? I don't get it. And so like you care about a desktop thing. A lot of people left. No, you do not care about a desktop thing. Right? You care about the HAX portion of that. And again, it's saying HAX, like what the heck does that mean? So, what is HAX? Well, as we all know, HAX is the ultimate Drupal 6 authoring experience, which we're going to show you right now, except it's, again, we already did the other joke, so we don't need that. But at DrupalCon, I did this whole rant about how Drupal 6 was making a comeback, and what I did was I put this authoring experience into Drupal 6 first before I did anything else, mostly just to anger people. So, if you go to Drupal.org, because here's the one reference to Drupal in this entire event, I put it in there, right? It's HAX. You can go to project/HAX and see a module that works in 6, 7, and 8. And so lots of coffee, and let's try to make some sense of what's going on. So, I talked about browser spec, compatibility, web components. Need to understand this concept because if we have the ability to define our own HTML elements that are super portable, we can go and attack a vertical we wouldn't otherwise go after, like a desktop app. Our group is like 4 people. We're not going to remobilize for desktop just because of a really cool, useful use case, but out of scope. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a static website instead. Again, we're just the trolling jokes just keep going in this. So this is hackstheweb.org. You can all go to hackstheweb.org, down the Wi-Fi. Just kidding. So what hackstheweb.org is a description site of what the heck HAX is. And so everything in this document is a custom element, because if you buy into this type of an approach and you just keep adding custom elements that other people have made, because they're kind of like this framework agnostic things, you can just keep building crazier and crazier stuff, piling all of it into the front end. And as Tom said, our phones are powerful enough to run all of this stuff. So what's happening when Tom's clicking and expanding and things is we're just touching HTML properties the whole time. So I mentioned, Gutenberg very early on. I'll turn on developer mode for this. But a fundamental difference between these things is that anytime Tom is touching something on the screen, he's ultimately writing web components. So these are the same type of web components that could be written by your front-end development team. You work on this one design asset really well, you make a card, or you make a banner image, or you make the 4,000th hero image that you've made for a university, not pointing to anything specific. And then it's unique to that organization, never. And so what we're able to do using the same specification that we give to designers, we can then give to content contributors. And so whenever someone is editing something in HAX, they're actually just editing custom elements. And so our design assets are not pegged to our authoring platform. So before, when Tom called open this Go Find Something tab and called up YouTube, this is all headless. It's all just running in the front end. We're searching YouTube based on hitting a JSON endpoint from them, pulling the results in, visualizing those results as custom element cards, selecting something that came across, and HAX is saying, here are the custom elements currently on the page that claim they can handle a thing that's a video. So the video player does not have some innate ability to talk to YouTube. If that YouTube link wasn't there, the video player would still work. If the video player wasn't there, YouTube would still come up and say, hey, I can render myself as a QR code, because a QR code can render that. Because we're just using the custom element spec and basically rewriting those little data points, the attributes, or not properties, sorry, the properties that are in there, what we can do is this. So when Tom hit the YouTube API and he hits the button, we pull off of that API the link, and then we map it into that field. The field is a custom element. The generation of the field is a custom element. I'm going to just say custom element all the darn time, because if we leverage JSON Schema, not JSON APIs, everyone heard of JSON Schema? Okay, so JSON Schema, highly recommend looking it up. Fantastically simple little idea. It's basically the data types and way to present the form capabilities of how to edit the data that came across. And so this is a custom element on the right that if you pass in JSON Schema, auto-generates a form on the front end that's validated to spec. Can anyone think of why that would be useful? Like we could hit the field API, and instead of the form being rendered on the back end, we could send JSON Schema forward, and a single custom element on the front end could render that. Here's the major difference before someone says, but you should use React, because I haven't stopped to make fun of React yet in a while. So these elements, and it's not criticism of React, I was just going to tangent there. How this is fundamentally different from the way that I had developed previously, right, is I would go into a project and I would learn a lot of skill sets from that project, re-implement, and then re-implement those skill sets for another client or whatever. We're actually using the same code and the same references, quite literally. So like when you see a card in any of our interfaces anywhere, it is the same code reference everywhere. So we can just assume that that's there effectively. If there's an accountability issue, so like let's say there's an accessibility issue in a tag, we know that when we update the reference to that tag, every project we work on, that gets fixed. If you saw the talk by the Angular core advocate yesterday, he kind of mentioned this at like kind of the server side. Well, Polymer is another team at Google, and they kind of take the same type of approach, but on more, well, Angular, I guess, is the front end too, you're talking about. But so that you have this level of accountability to go, oh, well, I can go and update that, and now if the QR code is inaccessible, I update the one reference to the QR code, and everywhere that we're building across this, we update it. But I didn't want to put it in as a QR code. And so the QR code, in this case from HAX, can say, well, you gave me a source, and I can tell you that I have a source, what the heck can also show a source? Because all we're doing with all our design assets is adhering to this specification in which we've defined the properties and kind of forming this conversation of how everything could talk to everything else on the page. So I can take a QR code and escalate it back into a video player and map even this caption that came off the YouTube API previously into another element. So like there's no innate magic. Tom said it's magic. It is kind of magic at times, but it's taking custom elements, and if we treat the data properties in our design assets as a full-blown API, we can start rewiring that API across other design assets we make in the future. So we started down this rabbit hole 2017, last year, in like February. We have 195 standalone elements at this point that have their own design pattern. And so like our video player will work with or without HAX. We use it on static websites all the time. If we build a static website now, we take the assets made for that and plug them into HAX. So even if it's at the design layer, we've heard a lot of talk of progressive decoupling and full-on decoupling. We can kind of play in both camps. So we can have an entirely decoupled system and then pick and choose the assets from it and make them available to our content contributors when they start building this. So static website. What did Tom show? A desktop app. Why do you care about those things? You don't. Because you're all going to adopt Elm's Learning Network, right? I've only been talking about it on stages like this for like 6 years and no one has. But what we get, right? So those buttons, the click interactions, the little hoop and the thing, card interfaces, every interface we build, we're leveraging all those same design patterns. This is something you can gain from React. I'm not going to say that like React can't do this type of stuff, right? Where you can just repurpose all these design assets. However, this is running in a Drupal site, and because our editor itself is fundamentally one of those tags, right? So we have all these little specialty design tags, but our editing and authoring experience is a tag of its own. When we go to integrate with a new platform, we just need to get a reference onto the page. We need to stick the body of whatever that content is in between the tag, and the authoring experience will show up. Then the backend system, whatever that is, needs to understand how to save. Needs to understand how to handle a file upload. And so this is HAX running in our Drupal site here, because Elms is built on Drupal. So I will pick a save file to upload. Tom. And I'll throw it in the page, and that just uploaded to the Drupal file system. You all saw the really cumbersome blue windy wheel, right, that we all had in Drupal 7 because it's built on Drupal 7. And so there it is. There's my design asset with my image that was uploaded to Drupal. And how do you know it's Drupal? Because I have a hideous looking admin menu. And so then if I click files in my hideous looking admin interface, you can see that that's the file that I just uploaded now. And so again, you don't use Elms. Why do you care? You use Garland. This is how you got sold on this bag of goods a long time ago, right? Garland, I love you. So we're going to go in and we can edit that Drupal 7 site because, again, I already know how. And we're going to put in a Wikipedia article about Drupal, which is the technology we all used to use, apparently, because it's not talked about at this conference. Just keep bringing that up. And instead, we're going to the moon. Because we're all using all these other crazy technologies. And so React is on the moon. Let's all go there this 5-year period. So I can make this really long. And so I just made a meme in the page and say, well, I don't use memes in my site. And you're right, but I do in mine. And so my version of HAX could have the meme tag, and then the meme tag is made available. HAX is not dependent on any tags other than the way it basically maintains this area of the page. So, Drupal 7. You don't use Drupal 7, we're all getting off the island, right? That was the D8 methodology, and that's why we're all moving to Backdrop. We're off the island. We're no longer using Drupal, but we've just renamed everything under the hood to be Backdrop _ instead of Drupal _. New system. Okay. I love Backdrop, by the way. I just like trolling everything. So, HAX in Backdrop. All right. Delete, same authoring patterns. I want to throw a layout in, and instead of a hyper-specific layout project, I made a hideous-looking PDF in a thing. All right, let's do 2-column. Should look a little better. An image, double click, and turn that into a basic image. Get rid of that thing. So I uploaded a PDF to the file system of Backdrop. Backdrop's editor is great, right? Like it's baseline editor because you use CK editor or whatever, but there's my PDF, and you all have a really cross-platform accessible way of presenting PDFs, right? We all do because we use the PDF, fill in the blank 7,000 line PHP module to do it, or we just put all that logic in the front end, design something the way it needs to work, treat the design, the properties of that as an API to talk to it, and then we just kind of wire the two together. But again, you're off the island, you don't use that, so we're going to Grav. Has anyone heard of Grav? It's not Gatsby, but Gatsby's like, oh, this is the thing after Grav. So what you can do is we can go into here and we get a login page because apparently my session token went away in the time there. All right, so now I'm logged in, and so now I have GravCMS. And so then I can put in this Maroon 5 video because obviously that's the first search result on YouTube. Thanks so much, YouTube. Or I can make any number of other things. And if you haven't noticed, the sources in this Find tab have changed, as well as in the Make tab throughout this process. And that's because these different examples in the demo just don't have those parts there. So HAX is not dependent upon what it's plugged into. In this case, there isn't actually file upload capability into GravCMS, but I can search Wikipedia for Drupal, and we'll see it comes up in a bunch of things. And there's Backdrop. So we'll talk about Drupal in the context of Backdrop. I mentioned this before, but other things you can get into, we mentioned accessibility briefly. Other things you can get into as an advantage of taking these approaches is that is a semantic, like down to the page level for a screen reader, way of documenting what that is and where that resource came from. So in education context, we need to document where things came from. I can create a well-designed element. Someone can fill out the details of that element. In this case, where is it? That's a, whoops, on a license is citation. Oh, citation. Here we go. And a citation can have a license associated with it, things and stuff. And this would be like devdays or whatever it is, .com. And so this starts to meet a real world use case that we have, but we've gotten one of our content contributors to be able to better document their work, better license things, because we've created an experience that allows that to be possible. People don't want to just like arbitrarily not cite things across the internet. So let's save that. We're in there. And this is very different from, has anyone heard of this system? It's Drupal 8. That's supposed to be what this conference is about. And so we can find things in here by, oh, no, I don't want to search an internal file system. I'm going to add a file. I'm going to throw up this picture about the death of higher education. I did a talk about it. Let's convert it to a basic image. There we go, so you can actually see those charts on there. And so HAX works in D8 for uploading as well as all of these other targets. So like, what are we really after with this? We're after being able to eliminate this authoring experience cruft that happens between all of these different ways of doing business. So it doesn't matter if I already have a site in place either. So we've showed very generic tags. This is, I'll open this in 2 tabs here. We could start to manufacture tags that are either Drupal specific or not specific. Now, is this for your totally decoupled website? No, probably not. But a lot of us have had, there are talks here about progressive decoupling and only being able to get part way. This is that kind of shim where you can get part way, but what your content contributors are creating are actually the same thing your design team is creating. Because your design team will actually lay out and design whatever that hero banner image is, but then the people creating the content could be doing that as well on the back end. So everyone remembers these tokeny things, right? This is one example. I'm trapped with these tokeny things. I implemented these tokeny things like 8 years ago and was talking about how amazing tokeny things are. However, we can then craft a tag that then interprets that token, sends a call off to Drupal, Ajax loads it in the background and puts it back in place so that I can move ahead, and you can see that that says it is a CMS token. And this data just remote, it's, goof up the interface here because it's heavily in development, but this is actually remote loaded from another system we have. It's a media asset management system. And so we're trying to create these pathways by which we can actually move forward to Drupal 8, because a lot of this, at least in the higher education space, a lot of us are stuck, more or less, as a result of past successes. And so either we burn down everything, and then we show up at events like this and we go, wow, everyone's decoupling. Maybe when we're burning down everything, we should go somewhere else. Because there's so much effort involved that you're going to start to look at all your options if we were starting to put these things on the table to begin with. And so HAX starts to create this middle ground for us where we can kind of have our cake and eat it too. We're starting to build completely decoupled applications using the same workflows as we do to make the design assets that people and our content contributors can wire into systems that exist currently. So, and that one in place, that one in place, that one. And so I have left the island is what I'm hinting at. And by left the island, I mean, oh, not the video player. I'm working on my own CMS because that's what everyone does nowadays, I guess. And so I can leverage all my design assets, all the click events, all the cards. That one page took like an hour to make, effectively. And then I can start to work towards a completely decoupled system because the authoring experience is assumed, right? I have this portable authoring experience that flows across these different, endpoints if we think of our platforms that way, so that I could dump in my images or list, image gallery or whatever we end up building, and then I can throw more media into that, upload. But in the case of these uploads, which that one breaks, of course, obviously live demo, yay. Make it real small.
Put some code in there.
I should put some code in there. Yes. You found an interesting one in highly experimental land. But what happened right there when I uploaded that is this is my file system. So that's a DDEV Docker container running on my computer. And basically all it did was place the file in the right location and then edit the HTML contents of this page. And so open that up. And so this was another file edit. So this is super clean for like microsite types of creation paradigms. Because everything is headless with that, I said, well, why don't we do headless editing experience? So when we add stuff here, hit save, I added a bunch of pages here, but you'd say, well, this is a blog. I don't understand. But if I change to an outline type of presentation, there we go, there's my content. What happened there was there's a JSON feed of like, here's what this site is built out of, and the contents, and they're all separated. Those two are separated. But what actually is playing this is effectively a single tag, because I have one custom. When you keep building with custom elements, at the top level, your whole application is effectively one tag that can sit on the page, unless you server-side render or whatever. But so we've been able to act in this is hyper prototype, but been able to abstract away the design layer from the content authoring from the content itself. And so I can switch this between, I can make this look even more horrible. So this is just a developer theme. But HAX has taken off the interface, that custom element is rewired, and then HAX is injected back into the interface so that I can go jump in, edit these things in this little developer area. And then, what were you showing before, Greg? What was the name of your site? Can I copy that? That was the first. It wasn't.
It's Decoupled, Drupal, whatever.
Oh, it was like a whole name thing. But so, this is has anyone heard of Surge? This is what we were trying to load with his thing earlier. So surge.sh allows you to just statically host little statically published sites. Well, everything we're creating is just touching single HTML files behind the scene and a single JSON file behind the scene. So because that's all decoupled and it's all static, I can basically just hit publish and send those off to a CDN. So, and this isn't really a like, hey, go use HAX-CMS today, but these things are all being worked on by 4 people. Everything just showed. We've only been working on this for about the last year and a half to get them to the state that they are. And it's because we can keep leveraging via the specification and keep leveraging webcomponents.org anything we want there. There's a lot of elements hanging out there. So 1673, almost all of which are compatible with one another. So that glitter rain. There's the glitter rain tag. Yes, I can't wait till where it puts glitter in the background of things. I mean, it doesn't animate. I think it says it animates, but it's fixed. I know. Make it rain. I know. So
somebody else contributed.
So that's kind of my sales pitch for use custom elements, use the specification. There's a custom elements everywhere thing. It was mentioned. Preact was mentioned. Preact has pretty good, has really good coverage with it. But even more than hey, use Polymer or hey, use HAX, I would really encourage you to look at custom element specification, some of the libraries that are able to churn things out that are compatible with it. So that, if anyone has any questions? Yeah.
Not a bunch, but I'll just ask one. Can you show a demonstration of your HAX authoring experience in a heavily art-directed website? Because you've shown there's sort of the bootstrappy, V-site CSS looking, plain white on white body field stuff. What does HAX work like on a highly art-directed website with lots of visual intrusions or flair?
I don't know. So that's a very good question because it's part of where is this being used. So here's the fundamental thing plugging with HAX here. Come on, scroll down. There we go. Is our design assets effectively just fire up this message indicating how to edit them. And so I would say, well, you would build a highly art-directed website. And so we just keep, the more advanced, all of our design assets keep coming as a result of other websites we're building. And then after we built them for those static mock-ups or whatever, we just wire them up and say, oh, well, now they work in HAX. So I'm not suggesting that it's just going to outright replace your really high-end website. This is a lot more at the moment like this could do a blog really well, or this could do a very content-directed type of a thing. This is placed here, that's placed there.
And this is essentially just then a giant-ass body field.
Yes, because you don't then need all the relational complexity.
So there's not really a field of data at this point. This is you're building essentially just really complex landing pages.
Sure.
Potentially,
yeah.
Okay.
What's actually stored in the database then? Is it just one root? How
So whenever you hit save, it effectively bubbles up and you get whatever. If you go to any of these and you go into developer mode, which is edit and I do preferences and developer mode and show export panel, it's whatever is in this area. It basically takes the DOM and then takes out all the shadow and the shady DOM roots and just has your video hyphen. If you have a video player, you just get video hyphen player, and then we store that data blob as it chips off. So I think what's interesting with this entire event is it's like everyone is working on these really interesting things that are all disconnected. And if we can create better, more robust experiences for highly targeted types of things more rapidly, I feel like eventually we'll all get somewhere else. So that's why I do knock on React quite a bit, because on the custom elements everywhere status page, they don't have nearly the level of compatibility at the data layer that everyone else does. And I feel like 5 or 6 years from now, we'll have all these amazing components. So it would be awesome if they all work together so that we could start to stitch our way towards that future. Much like before NPM and JS modules, we'd build all these neat stuff and all these things next to each other in parallel play. And then once that framework came together, now we can start repurposing everybody's stuff. I really feel we could get to the point we could do that on the front end as well.
What would be your wish list from Drupal side changes to make this integration easy?
I mean, so the question, sorry, I should have been repeating the question. The question was what should be done to Drupal to make it easier to integrate with something like this? It integrates with Drupal 8.
Working with other fields that aren't just bodies.
Working with other fields and art bodies. Honestly, people to dig in and say, oh, this is really interesting. The D8 integration was helped out a lot by people from ASU We wanted to see like, would this be valid for our marketing site and not the landing page, like not the critical pages, but kind of the ones buried deep down in where you end up getting people that are like, I need 4 pixels of CSS padding on this thing, like to at least give them an authoring experience more advanced than CK editor, but still constrained to the within the design constraints, rather, I should say, they had. So I'd say from the Drupal side, yeah, like if it could talk to other blobby type of fields, or there's a CMS-views tag, a CMS-block tag, and a CMS-token tag that I showed. Just like UX work around people using it, breaking things, saying how would I accomplish X, right? Because yeah, we just need more people to play with it, really.
I have this question. What are your feelings on the adoption rate of web components in general? I'm not using them at all for anything, but I always like to be on trend, to keep up to date with everything as time goes on. So obviously this is heavily leveraging that. Where do you see that going? Is it something that we should be looking more closely at for those of us that aren't using it?
So the question was, and it'll be the last question, so to get off the stage. Where do I see web components going, and is it on trend to be adopting this? So it was proposed in 2011, and I think part of the issue has been, so that polyfill board that Greg showed used to be only Chrome, and it felt a lot like this is a thing that only works in Chrome and only ever will. And then like Safari, well, Opera as well. And then Safari got on board with most of it. Firefox in October will support Shadow DOM and custom element, or at least it's on target for doing so there. So I feel like we're at a tipping point where you don't need so many polyfills so aggressively, and that the older versions of IE are dying off. This doesn't work in IE 10, and for a long time that would be a huge deal. Well, Microsoft tells you not to use IE at all, let alone IE 10. So I feel like we got in 2 years ago. I feel like we were about 6 months earlier than we probably, we were really fighting some things at that time. But React is not a bad, I'm sure that's what your question is. React is a very similar, not a bad option either to move forward. It's just, it doesn't play, the compatibility or lack of compatibility is in the data binding between those. And so Polymer and these other frameworks allow you to bind properties natively, and React will only allow you to bind attribute like text strings. So it just starts to make it really easy to do things in something like Polymer, where I'll have a single property that's a complex object that I then pass statefully between things. It's kind of, I would highly recommend playing with it. I really recommend looking at Stencil. Because Stencil's whole envisioning is use a lot of the React conventions like JSX, and then compile it down to a vanilla web component. And I've seen it seems to be getting a lot of buzz by itself. Vue also now in the CLI, and Angular in the CLI both support compiling the web components. So 5 years from now, I don't know, but every time anyone has walked into a McDonald's, every video board is Polymer. Comcast, if you have a Comcast product, every top bar is Polymer. So as those types of things start to come out more and more from HSBC and these bigger companies, I think it'll really start to take off. But thank you.